Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, The Exploring Medico. Now, as we have seen earlier, the detailed information on the cartilage. Now, this is the last section of this chapter, which will be divided into two parts. Today, we are going to learn about the parts of a long young bone and nerve supply of a bone. The next part will be the second video, section 2. So, today, this topic is divided into two videos. The topic is last. Okay, so now we will talk in detail about bone type, everything. Before starting this, I may tell you that if you have not subscribed the channel, please subscribe it. Do like it. Subscription is for you. If you will subscribe, you will get notification that new videos came or not. And if you are liking the content, make sure you like the button. And if you need the PDF of all these notes and topics, then you can ask in the comment section. So let's start without wasting time. Parts of young bone. So first is shaft, which is diaphysis. Second one is end, which is epiphysis. First we'll write the part, then we will see in the figure. Epiphyseal cartilage. 4. Epiphyseal end of shaft, that is metaphysis. 5th, outer perosteum. 6th, inner endosteum. 7th, marrow or medullary cavity in diaphysis. 8th is not there only. So these were the parts of bone. Now let us see one by one. First one was shaft diaphysis. So this is shaft and this is diaphysis in the bone. Here is the structure of long bone which is cut into parts to show you. Second one is epiphysis. So end of the bone is known as epiphysis, which is above diaphysis, and it is present in both the sides. Epiphyseal cartilage, it's this epiphyseal plate of cartilage. This is epiphyseal cartilage. Then epiphyseal end of shaft. Shaft is what? Diaphysis. Then epiphyseal end of shaft is metaphysis. Getting this one. Then in this figure you can see outer perosteum and inner endosteum. So this outer part will be perosteum, this inner part will be endosteum, and narrow cavity or medullary cavity which is present in the center. So these were the part of a young bone. Now we will describe each and every part in detail and we will be required this figure. So today's topic is much important for the examination purpose also. It can ask in the viva, it can be asked in the theoretical long questions also, or any can be asked in the short note also. So have your good concentration. Now talking about shaft, that is diaphysis. Now diaphysis means what? Dia and physis, two words are there. Dia means between and physis means growth. So between growth, diaphysis. Now diaphysis is what? Part between the two ends in developing bones. Which is the developing bone? In that between portion is known as diaphysis, between the two ends of a developing bone. It includes shaft, as we have seen, and here occurs primary ossification. And forms major part of long bone. Now you can see this diaphysis, it is shaft. Now it is, here will occur what? Primary ossification, which will constitute the major part of a long bone. And this primary center is formed before birth. So primary ossification is generally before birth. Getting? And shaft of this diaphysis is composed of compact bone. This type of bone you will learn in this chapter in the next session. And now cavity, that is hollow cavity, present in the diaphysis is medullary cavity or marrow cavity, and it contains adipose tissue, hence yellow marrow. Yesterday we have seen in the function of bone, storage of fat by yellow marrow. So generally fat is stored where? In the adipose tissue. So ultimately the function will be handled by yellow marrow. So this was about shaft, that it occurs in the developing bone ossification. Primary ossification takes place which is before birth. And shaft is made up of compact bone and hollow cavity is present. That is medullary cavity or marrow cavity, which is adipose tissue or yellow marrow. This one. So this was about diaphysis. Now next, end or epiphysis. Now epi means upon and physis means growth. So now if we talk about this is what present on end of long bone, present in end of long bone, and it is part of secondary ossification. Like diaphysis is the part of primary ossification and epiphysis is the part of secondary ossification, and this secondary ossification takes place after birth. Like in diaphysis it was before birth. So you do remember all these differences, so it will help you to clear out more. Now remember this point which is more handy. At birth time long bone is cartilaginous, that is epiphysis is cartilaginous. So it is known as cartilaginous epiphysis, and after the ossification it leads to bony epiphysis. So this is called endochondral ossification. So what was that? That during birth time long bone is cartilaginous. After secondary ossification, it leads to bony epiphysis, means cartilage converts into the bone, and that type of ossification is known as endochondral ossification, which takes place in the end, that is epiphysis, this one. Endochondral ossification, here primary ossification. Now one more thing, that epiphysis is present on both hands. But ossification does not take place simultaneously. So what does it convey? That epiphysis occurs in the both way, but ossification takes one by one. First one will fuse with diepiphysis, then second will not fuse, and when the latter one will fuse, it will last for long growth. Means first diaphysis will fuse, then another part of epiphysis will fuse in the diaphysis, but the first part of the epiphysis is fused, then done. Then the remaining part, which is going to fuse with the diaphysis, will take a long growth. It will take more time compared to earlier. So it is called growing end of bone due to this. Is it clear? As both epiphysis fuses on the end, but the epiphysis which is at last time, which is the last moment of fusing, is known as growing end of bone. And this epiphysis is filled with spongy bones. And in these spongy bones there is spaces where RBCs are present, where hemopoiesis takes place. Getting? Can you see these dots? Here the hemopoiesis takes place. Now next, now remember this is IMP, can be asked in Viva, can be asked in 1 mark. There are certain bones where epiphysis takes place at one end only. I have told that first one end fuses, then second end fuses, but in this type of bone only one end is present, second end is not there. So such are metacarpals, metatarsals, phalanges, ribs. So here one end is only present for the epiphysis. Is it clear to everyone? Good. Now another topic, types of epiphysis. So as I told, there are 4 types of epiphysis. So let us discuss one by one. First one is pressure epiphysis. Now this is what pressure epiphysis means. This is present at articulating surface of developing bone. Means joints, where joints are present, where weight transmission is done. There pressure epiphysis is present. So its function is to transmit weight under pressure. There pressure epiphysis will be present. Example, head and condyles of femur, head, capitulum, trochlea of humerus and condyles of tibia. So this is what pressure epiphysis. Can you see this? So pressure epiphysis itself says that needs pressure, which works under pressure. Joint complex, you can easily remember the bone which form joint. There pressure epiphysis is there, and even in this figure also we can see here. See, pressure epiphysis. So this one. Getting? Now next we can discuss is traction epiphysis. Now it develops along the line of muscle that pull in non-articular parts. Means where joint complex is absent. Means the bones which does not make joint, the bones which does not partification to form a joint, there traction epiphysis is present, because weight transmission is not there. Role of weight transmission is not there in traction epiphysis. What does function of traction epiphysis? What does traction epiphysis do? It gives supports to tendon, ligaments to attach on bones. So what will be there? So in the traction epiphysis, it gives support to tendon, ligament, as it does not form any joint. So its name is up to like that, traction. You can see here, traction epiphysis, like this, because this part does not form any joint. And you can see in the earlier figures for more proper, see traction epiphysis. Now this one part is traction epiphysis, which does not have any role. Now if we talk about the examples, then trochanters, that is greater and lesser of femur. These all greater, lesser trochanters, head, capitulum, trochlea, these what are these all parts? You will learn in the detail of each and every bone in this channel only. So stay tuned till that. One by one each bone will be discussed in detail. Then tubercles, lesser and greater tubercles and epicondyles of femur or humerus, you can say anything. So there traction epiphysis is present. Remember the example and definition, okay? Now third one, atavistic epiphysis. Now where it is present? Where there is fusion of bones. Where there is fusion of bone means one bones get attached to other bone. There atavistic epiphysis is there. Example, coracoid process of scapula. You will learn in detail what is coracoid process and everything. And posterior tubercle of talus. You can see in the figure, this is atavistic epiphysis, which is in a coracoid process and everywhere. Getting? Now last, aberrant epiphysis. It is not always present. It is not necessary that it is this type of epiphysis will be always seen, but examples are epiphysis at head of first metacarpal, where aberrant epiphysis is. You can see here, no? Aberrant epiphysis. So this is about. Now next, epiphyseal cartilage. Now we are going to discuss about epiphyseal cartilage. Now what is epiphyseal cartilage? Plate of hyaline cartilage between epiphysis and diaphysis of long bone. Plate of hyaline cartilage which is present between epiphysis and diaphysis. Now it passes as long bone grows in length. So what is epiphyseal cartilage? Growth in length. And when the bone is completely growth after puberty, this epiphyseal cartilage is replaced with epiphyseal plate and hence become epiphyseal line. Getting? So it is growth of bone in length at certain period of time, that is when one gains puberty. This epiphyseal cartilages replaces with epiphyseal plate, and this epiphyseal plate ultimately becomes epiphyseal line. You can see this one, no? This is line. Now there are various zones which I can discuss in the figure itself. First is zone of reserve cartilage. So it does what? Contains chondrocytes. You can see now. What is there? Chondrocytes. Reserve cartilage cells. Function is to reserve cartilage cells. Second one is zone of proliferating cartilage. Zone of proliferating cartilage where mitosis occur. So there will be formation of more bones, and it is, you can see, like this. So it is parallel. Zone of proliferating cells are parallel and occurs mitosis. So proliferating cartilage cells. Now third one, zone of mature and hypertrophied cartilage. Here meiotic activity is absent, or you can say meiotic activity stops. So there will be what? Enlargement of chondrocytes. You can see mature and hyper. So there will be enlargement of chondrocytes as mitotic activity stops. Next is zone of calcification of cartilage. Here what occurs? Resorption of dead cartilage cells are observed. This is narrow zone. So here calcification of cartilages takes place. And you can see these cells are narrow compared to earlier. Earlier this much portion was there, you can see. But this is narrow compared to other zones. Last is zone of ossification of cartilages, where ossification takes place. And ossification takes place through osteoblast, which are the cells of bones. So zones are clear. 5 zones. Zone of reserve cartilage, zone of proliferating cartilage, zone of mature and hypertrophied cartilage, zone of calcification of cartilage, zone of ossification of cartilage. Now let's talk about clinical importance. Talking about clinical importance, epiphyseal cartilage is temporary. You know that once one gains the puberty, it turns into epiphyseal line. So during that, disorder is there. So if any kind of injury happens in the epiphyseal cartilage, then it will lead to shortening of limb. Next is if there is inflammation of epiphyseal cartilage, then it will lead to excess growth of limb due to increased vascularity. So what does it wanted to convey? That when there is inflammation, excess growth of limb takes place, and when there is injury in the epiphyseal cartilage, shortening of limbs takes place. So this was about clinical importance. Now next, metaphysis, which is the end. You can see this one, epiphyseal end of cartilage is metaphysis. So if we talk about metaphysis, it is epiphyseal end of diaphysis of long bone, where epiphyseal cartilage is present. And here what happens? Length increases as epiphyseal cartilage is present. And in metaphysis, ossification takes place. So it is active growth area. Of long bone. Getting it? Now what does the metaphysis do? Function is attachment to muscles, ligaments, and capsule of joints. So there will be stress and strain due to this. Now if we talk about clinical importance of metaphysis, if you have any doubt, you can ask in the comment section. Now this region is vascular, so it will have sensory organs, so there will be pain. Also it has nutrient periosteal and juxtaepiphyseal arteries. So these all arteries are present in metaphysis, nutrient, periosteal and juxtaepiphyseal arteries. So it has hairpin like capillary buds. Bands or loops. So here infected bacteria creates emboli. So in young children this metaphysis is at high risk, and it leads to generally hematogenous osteomyelitis. Remember this, hairpin like capillary beds, where generally bacteria lodged in. Here bacteria gets lodged, which leads to hematogenous osteomyelitis. It also has certain types of affected areas like bone tumors. If we talk about bone tumors, then chondrosarcomas. This is malignant tumor of cartilage or osteosarcoma. And also in rickets you can see this, where it leads to demineralization. Of bone. Getting? Now next portion is periosteum. See, this is most IMP topic, so please watch the entire video. Don't get bored, because if you will try to understand, it is easier. And also this is IMP. Now talking about periosteum, you have seen na outer periosteum. So this periosteum is a thin membrane, and it covers outer surface of diaphysis. Outer surface of diaphysis. And here articular cartilage is absent. So there will be no sensory, and it is avascular, so insensitive to pain. Also it has osteoblast. Bone forming cells, and osteoclast, that is bone destroying cells. It has nerve fibers, blood vessels, and lymphatic vessels. Sorry for the disturbance. It has osteoblast, osteoclast, nerve fibers, blood vessels, and lymphatic vessels. And function is protection. It's the function. Now talking about endosteum, which is inner layer. Its function is, just remember this one point, which is enough. Its function is bone growth, repair, and remodeling. Getting? Now we will talk about marrow cavity, which is last topic of parts of growing bone. Now let us see in the figure marrow cavity. See here. Now we will discuss about it. Marrow cavity. The spongy bone, can you see here? Now this marrow cavity is also known as medullary cavity. It is present in the center of shaft, and it contains both red and yellow marrow. Now here RBCs is present, so hemopoiesis take place. And also adipose tissue and everything is present in the marrow cavity. And red bone marrow is seen in skull, vertebrae, ribs, hip bone, clavicle, sternum, and ends of long bone. This I don't think to write, because it is already and it is given. Clinical importance. Talking about clinical importance. First is bone marrow aspiration. This is due to clinical procedure where needle is inserted and observance is done of cells. Where needle is inserted and observance of cell is done. This is bone marrow aspiration. Another is bone marrow biopsy. It is for cancer detection in the bones, where bone marrow biopsy is done. And third one is bone marrow transplant, where it is done by giving intravenous injection. Bone marrow transplant. So this was all about today's lecture. Blood supply of long bone we are going to do in the next lecture. It is not possible in this lecture due to some reasons. So do revise this topic. If you have any doubt, you can ask in the comment section. I've explained as much as I can do. Still, if you have any doubt, ask me. I'll try my best to solve your queries. And do like the video and subscribe the channel. Have a good day. Thank you.